on the question of trust, I think it's probably true to say that we have a crisis of trust, that trust is lower now than ever before, and it seems to be in a downward spiral in so many different areas. So in this discussion today, let's look at trust and how it is that we build it. This is a place where those who suspect they're innately wise, brilliant and powerful come to learn how to transform their lives, one cognition, one realization, and one blinding flash of the obvious at a time. We are the innovators, the record breakers, the world makers and creators of all kinds. We supersede the suppressive worldview of mass ignorance and awaken the strength within. We are waking up to our innate secrets. My name is Dr. Mark Postles and welcome to the Innate Secrets podcast. Now, I was looking at some polls of trusts and in more recent times, and there's been a trend, and there was a Harris poll quite a few years back now that was indicative of this trend. It said that only 22% of those surveyed trusted the media, 8% trusted political parties, 27% trusted the government, and 12% trusted big companies. Now, that's not really great stats, is it? And if we look at maybe across the Atlantic, then a fairly recent study by British sociologist David Halpin showed that 34% of people surveyed believe that other people can be trusted. So that's pretty low. In Latin America, the figure's only 23% of other people can be trusted. And in Africa, the figure is 18%. So in the UK 4 decades ago, it was 60%. Today, it's only 29%. So, there's a huge gap in our trust levels with others. Now, that's not all bad though, because there are some isolated incidents around the world. And so maybe the good news on that side of it is in Scandinavia, the figure is 68% of people trust others, and in Holland it's 60%. So there are some societies that have generated more trust than others. And in the workplace, the research shows that only about 51% of employees have trust in senior management, and 36% of employees believe that their leaders act with honesty. So those figures aren't really that cool, are they? They're not heartwarming. There is some hope, and maybe looking at the Scandinavian systems and the ethos of those countries is well worth considering. But it would seem that I sort of think of trust as being like deposits in a bank account. See, we make deposits and then we make withdrawals. And at any time, there's a balance. So that's how we operate our life and our business. And within trust, it's a similar thing. It's like we earn trust, which are like deposits into a trust account with a given person or a given thing. And then we have withdrawals when we violate those essences of trust. Now, I think the important part to get on this is that the deposit, it takes a lot longer to accumulate than the withdrawal, and and possibly this could be parallel with a normal bank account. You save on a weekly basis, and you deposit money into that bank account, and then you see some bright shiny object or some desired thing that you want to get, and you pay for that, and there's a sudden withdrawal that takes place. And trust is similar in terms of we gradually build trust by doing something that we say we're going to do, by entering into a relationship with someone and earning the trust and depositing the trust into that bank account of trust by being in harmony with that person. When we violate that, and it doesn't have to be much, we said that we're going to pick them up at a certain time and we don't, that's a violation of trust. That's a withdrawal from trust. And so whilst it might have taken months to get to a point of trust in the bank account with that person, one activity such as not picking them up on time could take out half of the bank account or maybe the whole bank account. So, there's a question that has to be asked around this. How is your bank account? How is your bank account of trust? So, it is a multi-layered phenomena, and it affects everything throughout. So in other words, you could have trust with a in a relationship, with an employee, with a partner, and there are a whole bunch of layers there where you would trust each other. But when there's a violation of the trust, it will permeate throughout all the layers. So, and just say, to use that example, a violation of a time agreement actually affects every other part of that trust with that person. So it's not just, well, I can't trust that person for their time anymore. It's, well, can I trust that person with my money? Can I trust that person with my my secrets, with my energy, with my space, so there's a whole range of things then that get affected when trust is violated. And this is extends outside of us into our circle of influence. So we have a circle of influence, like a team and the people around us and the services and the products we have that go right out into society. So that if we are operating in a situation where we're violating trust in just a simple area, it's going to have a ripple effect that goes right out into many different areas, wherever that product or service has an outreach. So ask yourself the question: how much trust do you have in yourself, firstly, as a person? Because that's if we can't trust ourselves and we can't flow within ourselves with in a given area of activity, we're second guessing ourselves, then we will put that lack of trust out there to those people around us. The people who receive our services will feel like there's a lack of congruence there. So, where is it within yourself that you are not trusting yourself? Do you trust yourself to keep your word? Do you trust yourself to be able to do what you say you're going to do? Do you trust yourself to be able to get the results that you are purporting to be able to get? So, there's a number of areas there where that at the beginning of the inside of those concentric circles is you, and if you're violating trust within yourself and you're not trusting yourself, then it's going to affect all the way out. So the next level of that will be, well, which people in your sphere of influence do you trust? So in other words, it's very good to be able to trust yourself and for others to trust you, but where do you trust others? So what is the trust level in others' ability to do things? Do people say they're going to do things and then they don't? That's eroding trust. That is bringing the trust that they have, or that you have in them, down. And that could not necessarily be an ethical thing as far as they're concerned. It could be totally okay. There'll be no violation in ethics, but for you, because you've got a higher value of ethics around trust and around this particular action, then it will erode your trust in them. So that's where you could a person could be in a state of being in time, and so they're not aware of time passing. They're totally in the moment. It's like a child. A child will be totally immersed in what they're doing, and they're not aware of time passing, that it's now time to leave, it's now time to have a meal, it's now time to do this, and all these other constructs that we bring about in our ordered world. So if you're functioning from a high level of time tracking, so you're aware of time passing and you're with a person who's in time, then it's not very useful to get all bent out of shape and erode your trust in them just because they have this artistic bent that allows them to investigate, or a scientific method that allows them to investigate everything, and time ceases to exist. It's useful for you to be aware of your values around time in this situation, and their values, because they were very, very different. And if you're tying your trust to that person based on your values, then you're setting yourself up for hardship. You're setting yourself up for a difficult time, because they're not going to shift their values in order to meet your requirements of them as far as trust goes, and as far as, in this case, as far as time goes. So, just be aware of that everyone has their own values hierarchy, and when they say, they're going to be at a certain place at a certain time, they're thinking in their mind, give or take, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, in the extreme cases, an hour, or, maybe that day. And that, if you've got your trust hanging on that person, you're going to be setting yourself up for a disappointing time. So it's about managing for that too. So this is where your business acumen comes in, that you know that there's certain people in your group, or in your team, or in your relationship, that dreamy Daniels. They are looking at things from all different angles. They don't have a relationship with time that's very clear. They'll probably never have a watch on their arm, and they will have to be managed for that. So it's not a lack of trusting. You can absolutely be sure that they're not going to be on time. You can trust that, but don't trust them to be on time for your values. So I'm just using time as just one particular phenomenon, but this happens in every single area of our life. Everything we interact with in our life, we have as a values hierarchy, and we have, when that's being fulfilled, we trust it. When others aren't fulfilling it, we don't trust them. When others are fulfilling it, we trust them more. So be aware, though, that it is our values, it's our perception, and others aren't necessarily in this life to live up to our values and to live up to our perception. So, being aware of it, being able to flow with it, and allow them to be at the level that they're at, and you manage for that, because your job is not to change someone else's character traits or their values hierarchy. It's allowing you to work within that, so you can get lots of stuff done based on your values, and have others along for the ride, and you place them accordingly. And we'll talk more about that when it comes to teams. So Stephen Covey, in his book Speed of Trust, just pointed out, look, trust is a tangible force, and whilst many people give lip service to trust, they recognize it's sort of a fluffy, feel-good phenomena, and it really doesn't affect the bottom line. So Covey states it differently. He explains that key elements that most businesses worship, that being strategy, vision, outcomes, strategic direction, and so forth, and execution, and doing the technical stuff, is all that's needed. Is this multiplier of trust, and that is so true. So it's sort of like what we've painted here now is a paradox, because it's like one level saying, well, everyone has their own measures of trust, and then we're saying, well, if we want to get stuff done and want to get things and get big outcomes, we've got to have this trust as a multiplier. So it's about trusting in the predictable nature of a certain thing. So if it's summertime, you don't trust that it's going to be snowy and cold. However, in wintertime, it's a reasonable trust that you would base your life on. So you have to be able to be flexible to allow that trust to flow in the context that that's being presented. So it's these strategy and times execution multiplied by trust gives results. So we've got to make sure that we've got a strategic approach here, and an executable approach that then incorporates trust. And that's where rules, regulations, and expectations are so critical, particularly when we're dealing with multiple people. So being aware of our own trust hierarchy, and then being able to put ourselves into a team or a relationship where we recognize ours could be different from theirs or theirs from ours, and then we make sure that we manage for that. So no matter how low the bank account is, the bank account of trust is, it is always possible to add deposits to it. So if you've blown it with someone, you've violated their trust in you, or they've violated their own trust, you can assist them in building trust back in, or you can assist yourself by building trust back in. So know that it's a deposit and withdrawal phenomena. One of the areas that one might consider in building trust maybe we'll just look at the four quadrants here and just pick one out of each. But if we were to consider, say, quadrant one, this is about our connection, our values, and our purpose and our outcomes. And the question would be on this one: well, look, do you trust that there's this innate wisdom within you? Do you trust that your body knows what to do? Do you trust that there's order in this life, in this system that we're living in called the universe? Do you trust that on this little rock that we're on, hurtling around in space around a sun at 640,000 kilometers an hour, whatever the speed is, that there is some order to that, and so that you can not occupy your time worrying about whether the sun's going to come up tomorrow morning or whether the earth's going to stop spinning and so forth. So that there's a certain inherent trust, and whether you want to entertain that thought or not, there is a trust that's built in on that. So be aware of that, and and maybe open yourself up to trusting that essence that we derive from, that we've descended into this physical form from. And so that then might open up the trust question in quadrant two. So quadrant two is a challenging area for trust, because the essential nature of quadrant two is to distrust, to use itself as a filter for survival. So to make sure that things don't go bad, and to reference back in the past and see if there's anything went wrong, is to right that wrong and to make sure that wrong doesn't happen again. So that's where the rules that come in with quadrant two, which are very significant when it comes to trust, is where a lot of trust actually comes from. Is that, look, if I'm going to say something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep my commitments. So keeping commitments is a major component of quadrant two. It has lots of rules around that. And this is a major driving factor. So whenever you hear that internal dialogue saying, well, they should do this and they should do that, or I should be doing this and so forth, those are the internal rules that we've got within quadrant two. And that's what builds our regiment, if you like, of trust. So we've got the quadrant one, which is big, hairy, audacious, sort of out there trusting in the universe. And then we've got our day-to-day trust of accountability and control and detail and attention to detail in the quadrant two part. So then we go on the quadrant three part. This is an area where we connect with others. So this is about dissolving the barriers to trust with others, or dissolving the disconnection with others and immersing ourselves with them. And so we want to connect with people, and so it's about going towards someone and trusting that they are inherently good beings, that you can be vulnerable with them, you can open yourself to them, and obviously listening is a critical component of that. So just not presuming that you have all the answers to the questions, and asking more than you tell and listen more than you talk. So that's where the demonstration of respect for another person comes in, and making sure that person feels safe and secure in your presence, and that they trust you, and that you in turn trust them. So this is at a very fundamental interpersonal relationship level. And loyalty obviously is a massive part of quadrant 3. So when you're establishing trust like that, then you're also showing loyalty. And once again, it's a bank account, so you either make deposits or withdrawals. And then quadrant 4, that's a straight talker, and that's where confronting reality, telling the truth, letting people know where you stand, regardless of the repercussions, the possible repercussions. And it's all that tough stuff there that the quadrant 4 part has as an integral nature of its own trust building. So getting results is the key area for this quadrant 4 part, and getting the things done, making it happen, attending to the bottom line, and under promising, over delivering, making sure that you knock it out of the park and you get to reinvent things and take them to a higher level. So that's where trust would be a huge factor in that dynamic. Making sure that you complete on what you said you're going to complete on, that you hold others accountable, that you hold yourself accountable, and regardless of the fallout, you say what is true for you. So there's a level of trust which is almost like the opposite to quadrant 3, which is so often happens with quadrant 4 and 3. They're diametrically opposed, just like 1 and 2 are, and that's the beauty of being a human, because we have all these parts within us. And if we can embrace these paradoxes and we can work within these different parts and trust each one of them, which they seem to be so contradictory, but we trust each one of them, we become richer as a person. So this is where continuous improvement and constant learning occurs. This is where we start to free up the synapses of our brain and allow ourselves to become more pliable, more flexible, and we trust in the universe. We trust in the history that's got us to where we are, that it was necessary for us to develop to where we are. It's not true anymore. It's simply a history. We connect with others, and then we are productive, creative and industrious individuals who are driving life forward. They're driving the planet forward, driving ourselves and our businesses and our families and teams to create more and create better things, not necessarily to consume. It's to leave the world in a better place than when we entered it. So make continual deposits into your bank account of trust, and you watch your bank account grow, and be aware of the withdrawals. Be aware of any violation you create within your own bank account, and beware of your actions and others' bank accounts of trust relative to you. And that's the tricky part, is to balance those two, because they could be diametrically opposed, and it's about flowing with them so that everybody wins. It's like a rising tide lifts all boats. So, and trust is a key currency within that discussion. So I'm Mark Postles, and I'll catch you on the next podcast. Let us show you how to fire your brain in ways that serve you, so that you can be confident, connected, and bring joy and passion into what you do every day. Get a free copy of my book, The Innate Model. Go to theinnatemodel.com/free book.